I started to create content online about a year and a few months ago when I was still a student. But I can say with confidence that it was one of the best things I did for myself. Because creating content accelerated my learning and helped me connect with lots of amazing people. You may be thinking it's not for you, but it's not as hard as you may think and can make your life 10 times better. If you're thinking of starting to create content online, like starting a YouTube channel, newsletter, podcast or blog, you might find this video helpful. My name is Shu, and in this video, I want to talk about how you can get started to create content online. So I've been making YouTube videos for a while now, posting at least one video for a year, and managed to grow my channel to about 14,000 subscribers, which is still very small, but I am very happy with the progress I made. And also I'm very happy with the audience and the people I met through my YouTube channel. But this audience part, building audience part, is only a bonus for creating content online. The real benefit, in my opinion, is that creating content accelerates your learning and helps you connect with new people. So let's talk about the first one. There is this concept called the collector's fallacy, which refers to the fact that collecting materials makes us feel like we are learning when in fact we are not. For example, collecting new articles and books makes us feel like we are learning something new. But oftentimes we don't read those articles, or even if we did, we tend to forget what these books were about after a few weeks. So how can we solve this problem? Well, one effective solution, in my opinion, is to create with the information you collected. In other words, you want to use the input you collected to increase your output. Right now, for most people, the ratio between input and output is like this. We tend to consume so much information, but we don't do anything with it. But if we can use the input to create something, the ratio is going to look like this. So I think finding the right balance between input and output is the key to escape from the collector's fallacy. The reason why increasing your output will accelerate your learning is that when you are creating, like writing an essay or making a video, what you're doing is explaining what you learned. But this is really hard. In order to explain something clearly, you need to have a really deep understanding of the subject. You need to know how it works and how it's connected to different ideas. This is why creating is a very effective way of learning something new, because it makes you work your brain so hard. So if there's something you want to learn first, you should make a content about it. You can write a blog or make a video. Now, the second benefit of creating content online is that you get to expand your network. So when you publish your work, when you share what you know, what you learned with people online, it will attract people. Of course, nobody's going to see your stuff at first, but if you do this consistently for a few months or even a year, you will eventually get discovered. And if they like your work, they will reach out to you. And some people will even offer you opportunities or introduce you to new people. So I see my content and work as my public CV. When people see it and if they like it, they will reach out to me. This is amazing for an introvert like myself, because instead of having to reach out to people, they will reach out to me. That way I can kind of automatically expand my network. So those are the major benefits of creating content online, and as I mentioned, as a bonus, you get to build an audience online as well when you share your work online. So when you create content, and if some people like your work, they will become a fan of you. If they are kind, they might even offer you to support your work financially, which is a great step towards making a living doing what you love. Anyways, let's now move on to how to get started to create content online. I think the first thing you want to consider is choosing a platform. So are you going to focus on YouTube, blog, newsletter, podcast, or even Clubhouse? A common problem people often face when starting to create is that we tend to try to do so much things at once. So in my case, I try to publish a video on YouTube, write an article, and send out a newsletter every week. And that resulted in a very mediocre content in every platform. So I decided to focus on YouTube at first and then gradually expand to other platforms, which is a strategy that I recommend. So focus on one thing in the beginning, and if you get used to it, gradually expand to other things like blogging and newsletter. Now, which platform should you choose? I think this depends on how much free time you have and your preference. The first option is newsletter. Personally, I think this is the easiest and good entry point to create content online. Nowadays, so many people have their own newsletters, and lots of people manage to build a huge email list just by sending out a weekly newsletter about what they like. Also, setting up your newsletter is very easy with tools like Substack and Review, which was recently bought by Twitter. This setting up process only takes like 10 minutes and you can start writing your newsletter. And it's also completely free, which also makes newsletter a great option to start with. In terms of what to write, it can be anything really. If there's something you love, write about it. Also, you can write a summary of a book you read or articles. Or if you don't have anything in particular, you can make a list of books, articles and videos or podcasts you consumed this week, and you can write a little comment about why you liked these things. This probably takes like 1 hour to compose, and you can do this for over a weekend. The second medium is podcast. I think this is another relatively easy option, but it costs a little bit more because the audio quality is everything in podcasts, which means you might want to invest in good microphone and audio interface. But if you're okay with that, podcast is a great option. I think there are 3 ways to do podcast. Do it alone, do it with your friends, or do interview with different people each week. Doing it alone might be the easiest option because you don't have to care about other people's schedule, and you can just hit record button and start talking about whatever you like. But it might be really hard to keep it going all by yourself. So some people do it with their friends or family, which I think is a really fun way to do podcasts because you can just have a conversation like you always do, but in a more structured way. So if you have best friends who share similar interests as you, I think it's going to be really fun to do podcasts with them. Finally, you can interview different people each week. This is perfect for you if your goal is to connect with new people, because doing a podcast interview is essentially an excuse to reach out to many people. So if you want to expand your network and meet lots of new people, I think this is the best option. Overall, podcast takes 1 hour for recording and 30 minutes for editing, which I think is pretty doable for busy people. Also, what's great about podcasts is that you can repurpose it for other platforms. For example, you can record your podcast session and post that on YouTube and Instagram, and also you can post a subscript to your blog or newsletter, or you can make a summary or key takeaways for Twitter, which I think is a great way to build an audience on multiple platforms. Now, what about YouTube? YouTube is a great platform because millions or billions of people use it every day. Also, it has visual components, which means it's easier to add a bit of personality and originality into your content. But this is kind of hard to do in newsletter or blog. Having a bit of personal flavor is great because it helps build trust between you and your audience. In my opinion, it's much easier to build your personal brand on YouTube than blog or newsletter because of this visual component, which is one of the reasons why I chose YouTube over other platforms. However, there are some cons of choosing YouTube. One is that it takes much more time to produce a video than writing a newsletter or producing a podcast. So first of all, you have to plan and write a script for video. You have to record and film, then edit the video and make a thumbnail, and finally you get to publish it. So it can be a little overwhelming at first. But of course, that is not to say you shouldn't choose YouTube, because like I said, it's much easier to build your personal brand on YouTube than other platforms. Also, it's true that it takes time to produce a video, but once you get used to it, you're gonna have a solid workflow and routine, which makes it much easier and saves time to produce one video. Finally, blogging. I think blogging is as hard as making YouTube videos because, in blogging, you have to refine your writing over and over again. Whereas on YouTube, you don't really have to care about like grammar or spelling errors. This is also why I chose YouTube as a main platform, because I can't be bothered to proofread everything. And since English isn't my first language, I'm going to make lots of grammar errors and spelling errors, and that means I have to spend extra time to correct these mistakes, and I don't have to do that on YouTube. Still, blogging is great if you don't want to show your face or if you don't want to edit video, which requires a bit of skill. Now you can set up your blog in like 10 minutes without coding. My favorite tools for blogging is Webflow, which is a tool I use to build my own website, and also you can use tools like card, which is great for building a simple website. And also you can use Notion to build your website as well. Personally, I recommend Webflow because you can build a really cool website without coding. Although there is a bit of learning curve, but they have a really extensive course on YouTube on how to use it. Once you decided on the platform, you can schedule a dedicated time for creating. Like maybe you can start from 2 or 3 hours every Saturday for creating. So you can write a newsletter or record a podcast or even make a YouTube video. Finally, I want to talk about common issues and common worries people tend to have when they are starting to create content online. One of them is that people worry about their friends, family finding it out. This is very common, and I used to worry about this as well, but trust me, they won't, and even if they did, they won't care about it because they're too busy with their own life. Personally, what I did was that I created a new account for Twitter and YouTube and started to create content there. And I didn't tell anybody. Even now, I'm pretty sure none of my friends know that I'm creating content on YouTube. So don't worry too much about it because your friends or family won't find it out. The second common worry is not knowing your niche. Now, I hate the idea of niche because it's so constraining, but at the same time, it's very crucial to think about it if you want to grow quickly. In my case, I had no idea what my niche was at the beginning. So what I did was that I just made a video about random things, random things that I liked. So for example, I made a video about my favorite matcha green tea, my favorite iPad apps or tech. Rome research and note-taking was just one of those random things. And that went kind of viral. And I saw that as kind of a signal that that could be my own niche. So that is kind of how I found my own. So a good strategy is to make content about whatever you like. This is about iterating ideas over and over again. If you think some ideas are good, make content about it and repeat it over and over. And of course, most of your ideas will not receive any comment, view, or likes, but that's completely normal. But eventually, a few of your ideas will receive comment or likes, some engagement, and see it as a signal that could be your niche. And when you found that thing, narrow it down and focus on creating content about it. So that is kind of my own strategy about niche. Okay, the third common worry is I don't have anything original to share. I'd say originality is overrated. As that famous saying goes, there are no unique messages, there are only unique messengers. So even if you know somebody else already made a similar content, publish it anyways, because when you say it, it will probably turn out to be much different from other people's content. Finally, perfectionism. I think this is the biggest enemy for creators. I still have to fight it every time I create something new, especially when you are just starting to create content online. Like when you're about to publish your first work, you're gonna feel like, okay, this isn't good enough, this isn't valuable at all. But the truth is that nobody is going to see your first articles or first videos, so it's kind of useless to think too much about it. In my experience, what's more important is quantity rather than quality. If you can make content that is not perfect, but good enough consistently for over a year, I can guarantee the quality of your content will improve and the result will follow. Okay, I talk too much, I'm very tired, but that was my rough advice on how to get started to create content online. But that was very general advice, so if you need more specific advice, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, and I'm more than happy to jump on a quick Zoom call. Alright, if you like this video, please leave a like and a comment and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!